Welcome back. I'm Jen Potter, the host of The Wow Within. And today I've been talking a little bit about my story and some of the things that I've gone through that has brought me from where I was to where I am today. And my story is complex and there's a lot to it. And I just told a little bit about some of the stories that have shaped me into the person that I am. And in this last segment, I really want to just kind of talk about the work that I have put in over the past 2 years and to really grow. And I think I was kind of forced by nature to put in a little bit of extra work. And, in my 30s, I was a yoga instructor, a Reiki practitioner, started multiple businesses, but yet I just still kept going, what's next? What's next? And I was almost infamous for it. It's like I'd get to a milestone and be like, okay, I achieved this. Let's go on to the next thing. And I would never actually stop and appreciate the journey. I would never appreciate the trophy or the award or the milestone. I'd be like, I ran the Boston Marathon. Okay, next. Um, but then it got to a point where I was called out. I have spent the later part of my 30s owning several businesses, and even into my 40s, I still own several businesses, and they're going very well. And one of them being a consulting agency. And I have helped so many clients really get to where they want to be in life. And I'll never forget, my mom passed away a year and a half ago. And like I said in an earlier segment, I thought when she passed away, my life was going to change. I was going to be in a better place. All of the trauma would just release from my body and life would just be great, which is completely the furthest from the truth because it forced me to start acknowledging the things that I've been through, acknowledging the trauma, really start to, hey, all of this stuff happened. You're in your 40s. It's time to heal. And I think when I was at the lowest point of, my mom passing and just really starting to accept that this woman who I wanted dead for so long, and I don't mean that in a malicious way, she had a lot of her own demons and she put me through a lot. And when when you're in your 30s and you have drug dealers still calling you, threatening you and threatening your family, you really just wish that this didn't exist anymore. And that's a story for another time. So when you read my books, you'll get to hear a little bit more about that story. But it it was from a place of, I just don't have the energy to deal with this anymore, and if she wasn't part of my life would be easier. And I don't think that's the truth, because she wasn't fully part of my life, but I was still holding on to this. She still is here, so therefore she's still part of my trauma. And as my mom passed away, I remember a client saying to me, "When are you going to start taking your own advice?" And I was furious with her. I remember saying, "What are you talking about? Like, I take my own advice." She goes, "You give all of this advice. You teach people to follow their gut instinct. You tell people to live their best life. Like, your handle on social media is Jen, live your best life. But yet you are miserable." And it's not that I was miserable. It was that I don't think I was living up to my true potential. And it was through that getting called out that I started to reassess things a little bit. And people tell me all the time, they love to be around me and they want my time, and I spent so many years filling the void of time with people's attention. And I would give all of my attention to all of these people, and I would be there and I'd support them because that's what I truly love to do. But I'd come home and I'd be like on zero. I'd have nothing left to give. I'd have nothing left to give my children and my husband. And I was showing up, but I was done. I'd get home at night. I would go on the computer. I would do more work. I would go on my cell phone. I would post things on social media, look at all the things that I did, look at all these things, highlighting other people. But I wasn't working on myself, right? I was helping other people work on themselves, but I wasn't putting the work in for myself. And, growing the businesses, I thought that that was putting in the work, but it wasn't, being a life and business strategist, being the owner of several businesses, helping people get jobs and helping so many people. It was so gratifying, but I wasn't saving any of that energy for myself. And it wasn't until I got called out, my mom passed, my, personal life was just a little bit more difficult at that point, and I started to reflect inward a little bit. I started to question where I was, what I was doing, how I wanted to do it, and I started asking myself these questions every day. What is it that I want to do? What is fulfilling? What is something that I can do to take care of myself? And first it was start listening to the inner dialogue, right? The inner dialogue is telling me these are the things that you want. And for so long you stopped telling everybody what you wanted because you'd be like, "Well, what do you want?" "Well, I want, Thai food for dinner, but you want Mexican. So therefore I want Mexican." And I know it doesn't seem like a really big, deal, but when you're doing that every day, like, I like Mexican, but that's not what I wanted. And I would just say, "You know what? That's fine. I don't need that. I'll have this." And I stopped putting just something so simple on the back burner that it turned into all kinds of other things for so long. And it was that people pleaser in me, right? Like, well, if you want this, then I want that too, because if it's something that you think that I like, then therefore you're going to like me that much better. And so I started working on the people pleasing side, and I started showing up as myself. And to some people that was not okay, and that's okay. I started saying, "This is what I want. And if you don't like it, that's okay." I started setting boundaries. I started saying, "From this time to this time is my work time. If anyone gets an email from me, my email says after 4 o'clock, it's time for my family, because that's time I'm never going to get back. My 4-year-old is only going to be a day older tomorrow. My daughter is going to be a teenager this year. Like, in just a few years, my daughter's getting a car." It wasn't that long ago that I was holding her as a baby in my arms, and time goes by so unbelievably fast that we just want to say, "This is what I want next. This is what I want next. I want to wake up and this is what I want to achieve." But what about being present? What about being here in this moment and saying, "This is what I want right here. I want to truly be present. When I come home at the end of the night, I want to put my cell phone down and I want to ask my kids how their day was. I don't want to be so depleted that I don't have the energy to be present for my family and be present for my children." So I really started putting in the work. I started, doing things that made me happy. This year I partnered with a few people for my businesses, because I know that if I allow somebody else to do some of the work, I can give myself what I truly need for myself. For 25 years I wanted to be a writer and an author, and last year alone I was published twice. I published my own book, and then I was in a collaboration. And my lifelong dream has always been to own a publishing company. And I always was like, I have no qualifications to do that, but I have every qualification to do that. I also have the experience. And this year I launched a publishing company, and I didn't put it all over social media. I didn't tell anybody. And I mean, I know I'm telling you as my audience right now, but I decided that I wasn't gonna gloat. Everything that I did, I was going to do for me. And somehow the universe started giving me clients without me even talking about it. And so I'm like, that's how I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to help other people tell their story. I said, in an earlier segment, something that I am fully aware of. I am fully aware that when I walk into a room, people pay attention to me. I am fully aware of the energy that I create, because I know I have all of this energy inside of me. And I can choose to use that energy to be like, "Hey, look at me." Or I can take that energy and I can say, "Hey, look at this person." It's why I have this show. Talking to you today is probably one of the hardest things that I'm doing, because I stopped making everything about me. And I started saying, my purpose is to help other people tell their story. My purpose is to help other people heal. And I put in the work. I put in a lot of work. I go to therapy. I have a coach. Yeah, I do both, working on the past and working on the present. I journal quite often. One of the coolest things that I started working on not that long ago is journaling to acknowledge my feelings. And it sounds kind of silly, but I have a journal that I keep with me at all times. And when I'm super full of energy or anger or upset or whatever that may be, I excuse myself from a situation and I actually go write it down, because a feeling is a past tense. So something gets you worked up in a moment, write it out. You're able to have a more constructive conversation after the fact because you got it out. And sometimes we let out our aggression or anger in a moment and we say things that we don't want to necessarily say, or we say them in a way that is hurtful, that could have a long term effect on somebody. I started with this one practice for myself: is the decision I make today will affect myself and my family 10 years from now. And it puts me more in a present mindset. I stopped watching TV. So yes, I do watch TV. I have a TV in my house, but I don't watch TV regularly. My kids will have a show on and I very rarely watch it, but when I'm by myself or at the end of the night, I don't watch TV before bed anymore. I try to come off my cell phone relatively early in the evening, just so I'm not on. I'm not on social media as much as I used to be. And, it's funny, for a person who owns multiple businesses and who is also a TV personality, like, you would think like, oh, well, they need to be more present online. I find that the less I am online, the more of a presence that I have. And so I'm more intentional when I show up. So when I show up, I'm telling a story of where I am today and what I'm working on. And I stopped gloating. I started living in the moment and I started being more present. And by doing all of those things, from the moment I was called out by a client, all of the things that I did for my clients, I started doing for myself. I started listening to myself. I started taking my own advice. I started saying, well, if my body is telling me that I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. And there are some times that we got to do some things and show up for our family and show up for our kids, and we're not necessarily going to love it, but we also need to continue to say, this is how these things make me feel. And I think the more intentional we are with the things that we do, the more intent that we put on, healing from the past and acknowledging it again. One of the best things that I've heard, and it was something that Jim learned in his own therapy, was acknowledging without anger. And I can accept something without anger and I can be more present, and it's there, it exists, but trying to be a little bit more present with it. And so again, this is just part of my story. I am writing a 3-part memoir, and one of the volumes will come out this year. So volume 2 will come out first, which will be kind of the midsection of my 20s and my 30s. And then volume 1 will be my childhood, which is a little bit more traumatic. So that will get published second, because I don't want to come out the gate with all of the trauma. It all exists. It's all there. But ideally, I would like to tell my story a little bit out of order, to give a little bit more context. And then the third book is, kind of learning how to heal. And I've been writing them simultaneously for the past few years. So they're just about ready to be published, and I'm going to self-publish them through my publishing company. And, I love helping people tell a story. It's why I started the show. So if you have a story to tell and you want to be a guest on the show, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Now Media Network. You can find me on social media at Jen_Live Your Best Life. If you look up Jen Live Your Best Life on any social media platform, I will pull up on every single social media platform with that handle. And it's because I believe in living your best life every single day. So again, my name is Jen Potter. I am the host of The Wow Within, and I look forward to meeting you and hearing your story. Have a great day.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.